Last year I did a video on my Moleskine, I guess about my Moleskine, because I had a lot of questions about using this tiny book and what it was and all of that, and I went through a ton of supplies about like what worked and what didn't, and that was my whole first year. So this original first Moleskine was my first year of doing a page a day. And I did some funny prompts here and there, but a lot of the days were really about just kind of doing whatever was in my mind, whatever I experienced that day, experimenting with colors, experimenting with mediums, and I found some that I really enjoyed doing, like some mediums I really enjoyed using. So I am going to kind of do an update to that video. That's what this is. And I am putting out a prompt for the first 60 days. So I'm going to do the month of January and the month of February as prompts for starting 2017. And I'll be posting those on my Instagram page at Drawriot. And to go along with that, because it'll be my third year of doing it, I'm going to do a giveaway. So everybody who wants to join in will have an opportunity, because I'm going to do a kit of getting yourself started. So if you've never done a daily drawing a day and you've never worked on one of these little Moleskines, I'm going to do a kit which is going to consist of a Moleskine page a day book. These happen to be 2014 that I'm going to be giving away, which really to me doesn't matter as much. Moleskine has decided to discontinue for at least 2017 their books. So unfortunately our dates won't coincide, but a lot of the times I end up covering up the date anyway. And for me, it's really about this little size, and then having enough pages, because there's other books that I could use, but I really enjoyed this format, and I'm kind of started a collection here, so I wanted to make sure that I could continue that. So I bought a bunch of these outdated ones, and I will be giving away 4 daily drawing DrawRiotDaily kits. So the hashtag is DrawRiotDaily, and with the kit, those 4 people who win them will get started with the same kind of supplies I'm going to talk about in this video. And they're some of my favorite go-to supplies. So when I sit down to decide what I'm going to do during the day, I open it to my page. So this was yesterday's. And today is Tuesday, and I cut this little piece of plastic to fit into this book, just to, as you can see, like all the little painted edges there are from kind of spillover, but it helps kind of protect the page. So I put that in, and I also use little binder clips. So this is kind of my go-to, especially when you're in the middle of the book, it doesn't matter as much, but when you're at the ends, like we are now with not that many days left in the year, it just helps to keep the pages down, and when I photograph it to kind of document my page day, just helps keeping it open. I also will take my favorite glue stick, which is Pioneer, and that's what I've used in a lot of these kind of collage pages, and I will prop that up under there to kind of get an even balance for me to take a photograph. But essentially, I kind of allow myself to do whatever I feel like doing. Meaning, I draw my inspiration from the day, through colors, through composition. If I just want to allow myself some freedom to experiment and play, I might take a Faber-Castell brush tip pen, which is one of my favorite ones to use in this book, and really just kind of go at it and allow myself to just like draw whatever I want to draw. So that might be my start to my page, which obviously is my start to my Tuesday. So I definitely love to use these Faber-Castell pens. I have a whole little jar collection full of them, both big fat ones to like make marks with, and the brush tips and some skinnier ones to play with. Those are definitely go-to supplies. I use them a lot in here. I also use Blick matte acrylic paints, and I have a few paper artsy paints. What I talk about a lot is when I experiment in here, both with color, as you can see here I have some complementary colors going on, so like reds and greens together, and I really try and push. There's blue and orange, kind of working with color and contrast. So typically I'll pick a lighter color, or two lighter colors and a darker color, or two darker colors and a lighter color, to really kind of play with color and contrast. So I use these little paints a lot. I love the size of them. I can travel with them, and I like the matte paint, because I like it to feel almost like gouache, which I occasionally use in here. It's just a little bit harder for me to carry around, but these are definitely go-to. I also love to use, I have a little container of them, these Winsor & Newton watercolor sticks. So when I'm using these, I'll either just mark right on the page, like that, and add a little bit of water. And I have a couple different brushes I use, where I'm using a brush tip that's flat and then a brush tip that's pointed. So when I'm working in my daily, I usually am using one of these two brushes. If I'm gonna cover it with gesso, which I'll use a bigger brush, not super big, maybe one of these like mediums, maybe that's as big as I go. So just to get the coverage to let it dry quickly. But you can see today, no gesso. And I typically don't put gesso down first unless I know I'm really going to saturate the page with water. So even though I just put this watercolor on here, I'm gonna kind of use a drier brush, not super sopping wet, and just kind of activate this watercolor color. So you don't want to get the fibers of the paper, because these are pretty thin pages. As you can see, you don't want to get the fibers super wet, because that's what's going to break them down, and that's what's going to create show through to other pages or affect other pages you may be working on. So I'll use watercolor like that. I'll also use these. So like this is dark color, this is indigo. Like this. If I want a little more controlled color application, and I'll put them on by getting the color on the tip of the brush. And since this was wet on wet, it's blending a little bit, and there it's not blending. And that's okay. This is part of kind of just experimenting with the mediums on the page and the colors that I do. So I love to use those. And definitely Posca markers. I reviewed this one in my first video, this type of marker, and these can be used, kind of the acrylic water-soluble markers, but you want to make sure, again, not to saturate your page. You don't want to really dig it in there. You want to use it kind of very lightly, and you can still lay down some good color. You just don't want to like scrub and get the page really wet, because that's what's going to cause it to kind of come through. I also use acrylic inks. I love these F&W acrylic inks because they're just so bright and vibrant, and I'll either dip them right onto the page, or I might use my brush and kind of bring in some color here. And I love that the acrylic inks are very transparent, and then you can see kind of these marks through it, and also the blue through it to make a little bit of green on the page. And they're just a lot of fun to play with. And really for me, my daily diary book here, my daily page, is about experimenting. I use a lot of these pages not only to play with color, but also to kind of think about and design potential pieces I want to make larger. So how do I like this acrylic paint with this Posca marker? How do they work together? What kind of colors can I get when I overlap them? And just working through composition. So when I came up with my prompts, they really are very loose. So if the prompt is fresh, then it can be anything. Fresh is a pretty broad concept. And you could do fruit, you could do fresh colors, you could do something inspired by spring. The prompt, I really wanted to make them kind of broad, so that they don't confine you. I didn't want to make it too specific, like spring flower, because I want you to also look at these prompts as a jumping off point. So I have kind of a spread going on now, and I look at it and I might say, I want a little white. So I might use gesso at this point instead of starting it in the very beginning. Kind of go in and lay a little bit of gesso over this middle portion. And I'm kind of going over these black marks that I made with marker at the beginning, but kind of not at the same time, just to give it a little variation. And I work the mediums kind of around the page. So here it's blending with this yellow a little bit, and that's okay. That's part of the experimenting process. And I might get my fingers into it. So I like where this is headed. And it's just adding some kind of interest, some lighter areas, some darker areas. And then I'll look compositionally and decide, you know, kind of out of these mediums, maybe I just need a little bit more dark. So maybe a little of this indigo back in here. And I'm going to use this kind of more controlled method. And other than these main supplies, I think a white gel pen is always great to have, and I think a pencil to just kind of make some marks, both in the wet paint maybe, or over areas that are already dry, just to add a little energy. So there you go, some of my favorite supplies, kind of showing you, this page is wet, but I'm going to flip it back. See, no bleed through of any of those mediums. And you can use like the acrylic paints and the inks and all of that together on a page. You just want to do it a little bit lightly, so that you're not scrubbing your mediums into the page. And there we go. There's Tuesday, December 20th. And I'm excited to share my little starter pack. Go over to my website. I'll put the links down below, and I'll tell you all about it. You can win a starter pack. I'm giving away 4. You can get one off my Facebook page at Drawriot, my Instagram page at Drawriot. Do you sense a pattern here? My blog. And I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to like see what people do and use the hashtag DrawRiotDaily, and let's just create all year in 2017. Hope you enjoyed. Leave me comments below if you guys have any questions about working in this book. I'll try and make some videos and answer them. And thanks so much.